Hi everyone, this is Phyllis Raleigh again with Goddess University, and today I have a special guest, Peter Champoux, and I am pronouncing it correctly, I hope.
Yeah, that's correct, Phyllis. Yeah, shampoo is good. In France, you must say shampoo, but
Champoux, and
shampoo.
that would make more sense. And he is here coming, and I'm speaking with him in Boston in the morning of Friday, August 15th. And I only mention the date because we have some work ahead that I got excited about when I saw an interview Peter did on YouTube, and I was just doing some research and caught it and went, I need to know more. And that led to me digging a little deeper and wanting to understand what can we do. And it was a question that was asked by one of his interviewers, what do the good guys do? And I sat up at attention and went, yeah, what do the good guys do? And Peter very politely said, we need to do a love-making act. And I went, oh, that's right up my alley. I could do that. So I wanted to learn what could we do, and the question was really in reference to peace and how do we make peace on the planet. And so that's what we want to talk about today in a project we're going to introduce a little later on called Lovers for Peace. But first, welcome Peter, and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Phyllis, for having me. It's great. Wow, you know, the group mind, the world mind. Here you are in Thailand, me in Massachusetts. It's quite a thing, and it's a relationship. You know, even though we're thousands of miles apart, we share a global consciousness, and that's really what I've been trying to discern with this information, is what the global consciousness is and how it operates. Now we know how the telephone operates through, but you know it's metaphorical. Well, you had a question, a series of questions that you were asking me, and
Yes.
and you know, one of them was, how did I come to this work? And it's really been a lifelong process. My name is Peter because of all the rock that was dug out of our family foundation. My father built his own house from the GI Bill, United Rubber Worker. And he had a passion for dinosaur footprints. So after working in the factory all day, he'd come home and dig in the rock pile looking for dinosaur footprints that were all throughout the Connecticut River Valley where I grew up. You know, lost fingernails and such. You know, I was out there digging with him all the time. And my father was a union worker, and every year and a half he'd go on strike for 6 months to a year. And we would go to work as stonemasons. So that was like a trade I grew up with, is rock and being around rock. And our family were hikers, avid mountain climbers of New England. And my mother was a outdoor recreation person. And so she dragged us up mountains, and I loved to do that. Loved maps, and it just evolved over the years. And I guess in my crisis as an 18-year-old lad, I looked at my name to get an identity direction, and Rock of the Field sent me out looking at Stonehenge and these rocks in the field, like the standing stones of England.
Right.
And that was my first introduction to the Ley Lines of England. And I went you know, I was really fascinated by it. Read every book I could. John Michel, Rashad Field, a number of the leading geomancers of the time were, you know, some of my mentors, if you will. But lots of voracious reading and anything connected with it, myth, geography, geology. It's like up and down all around. It was just a subject that really fascinated me. It kept going to the point where I was looking at cathedrals, cathedral building, the why of place. Why do we place something somewhere? Reading a lot of myth and storytelling of indigenous peoples to try to get a clue as to what's happening with the land and this kind of collective consciousness that I was trying to tune into. You know, and I was hearing about it and feeling it in my psychedelic days. So there's this body of work that's been developed over the centuries, and what I've been trying to do is back engineer it into modern times, so that we can apply it today.
Sure.
So in England, they had all these ley lines. They're all laid out with standing stones and stone circles, and it was a series of natural and cultural features in a straight line, but it defined a waveform through the land that was really masculine and feminine in nature, or polar in nature. So where the stones were laid are where the crossing nodes are of the masculine and feminine energies, where they come together. So they put like a standing stone there in order to ground the ionosphere with the magnetosphere of the planet, if you will. The magnetic field that is the rock. So it was a different time then, a different. In my reading, it was a different kind of electricity, atmospheric electricity that happened. Then the fall occurred. Then it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and we lost this canopy. This canopy fell, and then all the tellurics, all of the energies changed, and these systems no longer operated as they did for fertilizing crops and fertilizing people and this nature. So it was a worldwide system during the Atlantean period. The Earth was their power base, if you will.
Okay.
And you can see remnants of it in Egypt and the south of England and such. And
the ruins. Which is my next question about those advisors. And you have pulled from so many different areas. And when you talk about geomancy, this is not something that was to the Atlanteans or the Mayans or any particular culture that had a lock on this information, but this was kind of global information. It seems like all cultures use this technology. Is that correct?
Well, yes. Here we are. We're thrown on this planet. What do we? How do we interact with it? And it's this amazing being that we're part of. And we're humans. We're creative. I don't know. I please rephrase the question.
Sure.
I'm getting sidetracked.
I wanted to ask your advisors. You had mentioned all the authors you had read. My question is, it seems this work is not just from one culture, but from many cultures, and it was across the globe who's been doing this work on ley lines and doing the placements in parts of the world.
Yeah, the Chinese were really huge on this. In your area of the country, Chinese, Taiwanese, placement of temples, Vasha Shasta, which is the Hindu method of placement, and looking at the land and placing something in relationship to the land, so that the village, the community, the family, the ancestors are assisted in their work to assist us. And it's a co-creation. It's a co-creational type of interaction with planet body that is experienced, emotionally, through psychotropic drugs. Not to mention that again, but the worldwide cultures have used, ayahuasca and mescaline. They found mescaline in with the Neanderthal burials. It's something. It's a consciousness thing that that tunes you into planet body. And so, when you're in that state, you start to see these lines everywhere, and you start to feel these energies everywhere. But, you can get there naturally, and you can do that through spiritual practice and such. So, the Buddhist monks, through their spiritual practice, they were, through their disciplined mind, they were able to see the greater temple. They got the little temple here that they're doing Om in, but there's also this, there's all their other temples all throughout the country that create a larger temple, a greater temple. And the Templars did the same thing in the Gothic cathedral structures of Europe. They created, there was a whole, you know, technology that they created in order to seed Christ consciousness into the body of Europe.
Wow.
And they did this by placing the cathedrals over old druidic ceremonial grounds, or you know, holy wells, or you know, whatever. It's in some place where the pagans would have gone before to worship. So it's called syncretism, where one culture is layered on top of the next, and but they retain the better qualities of it, the ones that the people really hold on to. You know, they always hold on to their sacred sites. And always go there, and you know, even if they're told not to, they're, you know, that's where we've always gone, though. You know,
right.
So the popes learned this early on. You know, when they took over and tried to bring Christ into a country, they said, "Oh yeah, put the church on the corner of Second and Main." No. You know, I mean, nobody would go there. You know, the priests would have to go out and say the mass at the sacred site. So they just learned from that, and it developed over the years. So it's really, you know, back engineering, forward engineering. This has been kind of outlawed in China because it interfered with progress.
Really?
In the Cultural Revolution, well, in the First Revolution, all the doctors of geomancy were eliminated because they were kind of like the land planners. You know, you can't build a house there, or it'll mess up with the chi. You know,
right. So. And they got rid of them. That's not a good way to go, but we understand progress. Okay, all right. So you've given to me some importance about the religious aspect about ley lines. But let's bring it down to the personal. Why does an individual want to know their ley lines, or where their home is, or where their work is?
Well, the ley lines have a certain propensity to you know, hold a frequency, hold its own frequency that is, you know, has a certain quality within it. So, you know, if you're on a line of churches, you know, that frequency of religion will be in it. But if you're in a line of, you know, for instance, if you're on a line of cities along the eastern seaboard, here's a really, you know, like one of the most blaring ley lines there is the alignment of Boston through Mexico City, which goes through Atlanta and Washington, D.C., and Baltimore, and Trenton, and Philly, and New York, and New Haven, and Boston. And that's really a great line that goes right over the pond and through Brussels and through the war zones of Europe. You know, so this Arcadian ley that arcs across the planet has a certain frequency of war that's coming in from Europe, but it's like a civilizational energy. So if you don't want to participate in Western civilizational energy, you shouldn't be on this line, because that's what it's all about, and it's just saturated here.
Interesting. Okay. Now, thank you for that. Let me go back and do the basic. What is a ley line?
Well, a ley line is a ley line is a our bodies are full of ley lines. They're called the nervous system.
Okay. All right.
And or in acupuncture terms, it's a meridian system.
Right.
So, and with these node points, and the Earth has a similar meridial system. You know, we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator, which is the body that we came out of the Earth. You know, kind of, that's my interpretation of that Bible passage. But sorry to be throwing it back to religion. I studied world religion a lot.
Yeah,
it's kind of.
I was a good Catholic school girl, so that's my basis as well.
Oh, you are. Oh, yeah. Do I have nun stories?
Yeah. Oh. Don't get me started. Okay. All right.
Ley lines are they're electrical current in the Earth, and they come in scale. They are, can go across your backyard in a very small kind of current, or it could be something that's larger in scale that kind of coalesces culture around it. You have in towns, you have, like in a town that I'm presently living in is Greenfield, not Boston, but we're on the other. They're over there on the other in the eastern part of the state. We're the unknown west of Massachusetts.
Got it.
But Greenfield has this line that goes right through it. That's a lineup of its civic structures, and being it's kind of a dysfunctional line. It's got a like a hospital wing, surgical wing of the hospital. It had an old drunk tank on that line. Then it had a middle school on the line, a synagogue, then the town's food store, and the DPW, and then the jail, and then the community college. So there's this kind of like wild mixed up energy going on there with death and imprisonment and education. And so, when you see these lines occurring that have these multiple different frequencies, coming up, it indicates a confused town. And that's precisely what we have here, where, we don't really have a focused town. Social services, and it shows what we're all about. Right. But, the inspiration of a poet's seat tower above our town is one of, it's our iconic thing. That's also on that ley. So living on this current through town, you're always caught up in that issue.
Now,
the issue.
Did the city planners of Greenfield know about ley lines, or is that a standard that planners are taught? So, or does this just happen to be how the town grew up?
In this case, it was just how the town happened to grow up.
Okay.
There are cities, Washington, Detroit, that were intentionally laid out with geomancy in mind. I think Memphis is another one that's really gotten big in that. They're throwing in pyramids and all kinds of temple structures there, and using geomancy in their parks and design of parks. There's in civic structures. There's the dome and the obelisk are quite common throughout the United States, and that's the telluric communication devices that are all referenced back to Washington's dome and obelisk. So the Masons set up a whole system, the battle was won in Saratoga of the American Revolution. That was where we finally stopped the English. So our sovereignty was gained in Saratoga, or in Bennington, the Battle of Bennington. And so there's a big Bennington Monument place there, and then there's a Washington Monument. But at a phi proportion, which is a life-giving frequency along these lines, is placed the High Point, Jersey obelisk, which is up at the corner of Jersey in New York State, the northern point of Jersey. So that establishes a frequency which carries the sovereignty connection of where we established our power when we're transmitting it down to Washington, D.C., where our new power exists. And then everybody was putting in all these obelisks and graveyards and civic monuments to civil wars and such. It was always an excuse. We'll honor the dead with this. But it's kind of like human sacrifice is also, it's a huge part of this whole conversation. I go into it somewhat in my book, Gaia Matrix, on Washington, D.C., and the arrangement of D.C. Nobody really speaks about the center, the very center of Washington, D.C. is which is on the 77th longitude. is this courtyard of Xochipelli in the back of the Organization of American States. This is really kind of the Organization of American States precedes the UN and the League of Nations, and but so this is right at the center of the DC Diamond, and it's a land that is not owned by the United States. It is a sovereign unit. It's this little sovereign lot right in the middle of our diamond, you know, our civic diamond, and in the back, and there are all these magical symbols all around the building. And in the backyard, there's this 30-foot tall death mask. And at the foot of the death mask is this little statue of Xochipelli, who was one of the gods of sex, drugs, and rock and roll in the Aztec pantheon. He was the god of the ball players, and he's always shown with the psychedelic flowers on his cape and such. And Xochipelli is one of the gods called out. You know, in human sacrifice, they would go through different membranes, opening up the body, and each membrane had a different god associated with it. And Xochipelli was one of those. You know, I think tendons or something was his domain, something real strong. And but you know, so there's this. You know, why did that happen? You know, it wasn't. There was. You know, that was added later on. Initially, there was just a house there, somebody who had the first plumbing, you know, on that site. So there are these places around, you know, these are nodes on ley lines.
Right.
You know, if you will.
And they're an intentionally placed. Well, because of their intention. So they have...
It's the power place. There are certain places that have power to them.
Right.
And like Jerusalem, everybody wants Jerusalem because there's a spiritual power that everyone feels there, and boy, wow, the blood that's fallen there,
and shed for that. So, given that there is power and bloodshed that usually happens, and my only thinking is Washington D.C. has probably not had a lot of bloodshed because we've only had the Civil War there, but these power places, they're used for, well, man has used them greatly for controlling other people, other men and other women in our country. So it seems that this is a place to, if you're there, you can make things happen. And for me, I moved to LA several years ago because we knew if you wanted to be an actor, you wanted to work in that creative field, you got to go there. It doesn't come to you. So in the same way, I think about these ley lines. So do you want to find the lines, as you mentioned, there's a line of sovereignty or a line of civilization. If you want to be in those type of power situations, you need to go to those ley line areas. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah. If you want to jump into the fire and really, you know, battle the... you know, if that's what you want to do with your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in Ireland, they, you know, they don't put a house on a ley because there's always fairy trouble or consciousness trouble that comes through it. So, you know, if you want to have peace, you don't want to be on a ley line. That's really the ultimate personal reason to know about ley lines.
Okay.
Or, you know, if they do exist, what are you dealing with? And what kind of frequency is it carrying? Is it noxious? How do I get around it? How do I redirect it? Those are the you know my tools, you know, that I offer.
Okay. So it seems like an energy superhighway. Then there's all types of things going on a ley line.
Yeah, you know, spooks tend to carry along ley lines. They follow. Fairies follow ley lines. If you build a house on a ley line, make sure you have a door on either end of the house, you know, so that the energies can flow through and not get stuck and vortex and pool. You know, there's tales of houses that have been put on really powerful sites where families have been driven out. And movies have been made about them, whatever,
Yeah.
Amityville Horror.
I was just about to say, that sounds like Amityville Horror, which, yes, okay. Huh. And so tell me about your work then. Is that what, are you working with individual families or commercial sites and or construction with large buildings or chasing ghosts?
It's being kind of a pioneer in this. Folks don't even know that they need this yet.
Right.
They've forgotten that they need it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, I've offered my services around to governments and NGOs, and it's just, I'm too far off the edge for them to really get to, but I see how they're using the information nonetheless. I sent information to Al Gore. I had had his fax number and sent some of my early information to him, and ended up being this covenant with the land speech that Bill Clinton made. And Bill ended up. I think they followed my material, because as I generated new and more information and places of power and places of, like a focus around the country, there Bill would go on a vacation or something like that. He'd go down to Merida, Yucatan, or, it was a center point that I identified. He would go to all these places, so coincidence, reading patterns into patterns that aren't there. I've been accused of that. But let me just say that I'm not making a great living off this, and my prime clients are folks like you that are just really curious and wanting to serve, being of world service. And we have so few tools to work with, and one of our few tools is our mind, our consciousness, our electrical fields, our bio, like I called my book Gaia Matrix. I published it, and a day later the Matrix comes out. So it's the movie The Matrix, right?
Yes.
So it made me feel like, how much free will is there really? Working with this stuff, and I don't know. So it's scary. It's scary when people get confronted with this information. Some just run away, want to shut the door. I identified the center of the North American tectonic plate, perhaps the geologic center of the North American tectonic plate, if not the spiritual center of the North American plate, as being this little village of Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts, and it's like. I'm almost an embarrassment to them, because it's, it's this thing in the American mind where everything is equal. We're all equal, and all places are equal, and all things can be treated equally. And if we stop doing that, if we stop approaching the world in that way, then it's no longer a product. It's no longer a something that you can just farm and do whatever you want to because I own it.
Right.
I mean, we had a fella dump toxic chemicals into his backyard because he was getting $55 every drum from his, to get rid of it. So he just dumped it in his backyard and periodically set it on fire.
Oh!
He contaminated an aquifer for like 10 communities. For a pristine Pleistocene aquifer, with water that could have, one guy,
Right,
just
right.
the arrogance of, the toxic arrogance of it all, and that's, it limits kind of control power too, like if you understand that the Great Pyramid is sitting at the crossroads of this, like the crossroads of the earth, if you will. All the north, south, east, west alignments of the Great Pyramid go across all the dry land of the world. So it couldn't be more center to hit all the dry land, if you will. And it's that pyramid consciousness of we, the priesthood on top, and you, the little guys down below in the pyramid, have to, abide by our canon of form.
Right.
So we are, this information is, powerful. And they're using it. I think the puppet masters are using it. The guys that really have the brain power. I mean, the ETs that are living amongst us that can, outthink us times 50, whatever. The scenario planners, they know these frequencies of the planet and play them like a harp. And one of the places they're playing it like a harp is in the Middle East.
Yes.
And if you want to go there now, Phyllis, we could. It's really...
Yes, because I like the sound of a harp and I'd like to play. So talk to me more about playing, using these tools as they're being used. And as you mentioned the Middle East, we go, okay, that's violence and manipulation and greed and money. And so that seems to me an abuse of the ley line power, but it seems like it's a neutral thing. You can use it either way, no?
We all use the same internet. NSA and us, we use the same internet. And we're kind of, ley line has really been kind of scaring me watching it evolve over these years. Is the what I call the Silk Road ley, and it comes out of the Nile Delta and goes through Ashkelon, which is this neighboring city of Gaza, through Jerusalem, Amman, Jordan. It goes through Baghdad, Iraq, Kabul, Afghanistan, Islamabad, Pakistan, Lhasa, Tibet, and over into Hong Kong. So I call this trajectory the Silk Road ley. The Himalayan mountains hang off it like a necklace, going from point to the end of the Himalayas or along it. And this line has just been really inflamed. Acupuncture term, an inflamed meridian, creating a problem with liver, generate fear, this type of thing. So, but if you stimulate these coherent forms over and over again, let's like battle in Baghdad, it just creates this entrainment. A frequency entrainment that has to be countered somehow. So with all these cities that are centered on war and are the controlling cities around these countries, it says to me that this ley line, which goes through Ashkelon, a cursed city, might be the actual reason why all this is happening. The Egyptians, the first reference to the land of Canaanite, the land of the Israelites, was in the Stela of Aswan in ancient Egypt, where it's mentioned in a curse against the princes of Ashkelon who were living outside the Ma'at. They were worshipping a monotheistic god, the god Bel or El, and their human sacrifices were being given, babies were being given, this type of thing to satisfy this bloodthirsty monotheistic god. So the Egyptians were just horrified by these people, So, but they had this fortress at Ashkelon with a spring in it that had 1,000 gallons of water a minute coming out of it. I mean, so as far as sieging the city, forget about it. The Canaanites had this thing where they had hogs, right? And the hogs would eat the dead people, and the live people would eat the hogs. So that's where the prohibition came from.
From pork.
Seeing the result of that, of pork eating humans and human eating pork, is like one step away from cannibalism.
Right.
So this was just this cesspool of I mean, it was so bad there. so the pharaonic priests inscribed this this curse in these bowls, and then broke these bowls so that the curse would never be undone. You know, and it was a curse against this site, which said nobody, you know, it's like against anybody who would try to revolt or think about revolt, it would come back on them. So it's kind of like it was like a recipe for perpetual infighting.
Right, and we see it today. And there's no way to break that.
It's in the water. It's in the water.
Okay.
It's in the water.
And we can't change
and
that.
Water is the
right. Water's the great conductor. It is why we are here. We are made of water, but we can't change that. We can build new bowls.
I asked an expert, you know, Egyptologist, curse expert, about this, and he said, well, the way the curse is written, it's like a virus in the software of monotheism.
Wow.
He said monotheism can never really, you know, survive because everyone's heart has a different resonance in it, and if you want to call that the one and only God, then you know, I mean, it's kind of, how do you resolve that? So you have a one God, one true God, but you have multiple religions that all believe in the same God that have different philosophies. Now, how do you resolve that? That's like a software glitch. That's a virus in the software. So it's like, yes, there's one God, but there's 50,000. There's 7 billion expressions of God going on here within the human family. Never mind what's going on in the plant world and insect world, and you know, in the planet world. You know, these are all expressions of God, and you know, and this arrogance to think that, you know, we're it. You know, I mean, it's you know, it all gets tied up in this ego, the ego of monotheism. I'm the one and only. You know, so it's kind of like. So that's the kind of, that's what we're struggling with there.
Right. It's messy.
But it's the water. It's the water, as I keep saying. And the water is the answer. The curses, the Egyptologists say that curses can't be removed until monotheism is removed. But, you know, there is a singular light in my heart that is God. You know, and that's a monotheistic perspective. You know, so... It's like I don't need to have, you know, my family blown up in this conflict anymore. You know, I mean, this is, you know, I mean, I'm sick of it. You know, I mean, my blood doesn't. My blood coagulates as soon as I open my skin up. I mean, because my family's been through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of wars. You know, and it's only the ones that didn't bleed were the ones that survived. You know, and it's like, you know, is that what we want to do? Is, you know, isn't it time for a wisdom culture to emerge? Isn't it time to start looking at ourselves as, you know, something that's so it's in the water? And I believe that if we can re-entrain the water, the Israeli conflict is all about water. You know, nobody talks about that. You know, all the water, all the aquifers are underneath the West Bank and underneath Gaza and underneath Ashkelon.
Of course.
So they. Let's get rid of all the orchards along the border because it's a security risk. No, it's draining the aquifer, which they have, you know. And so the Israelis are drilling into the Palestinian aquifer, side drilling, and drawing the water out and preventing them from getting any water. So that water is cursed water.
Okay, but can that water be healed? But that seems like that's the monotheism healing that has to take place culturally. Yeah. Okay. Right.
You know, and I think that if you kind of like, if you see the you know, it's kind of like, you know, sorry, you know, putting LSD in the town water system. You know, you put love into that water system. You know, as a consciousness seed to try to, you know, like
Right.
simmer down this fear that everybody's so wrapped up in, and so kind of, oh, I'm fearful, I'm alive. Oh, you know, I fear, I'm alive. Oh, I'm fear, I'm alive. It's kind of like that's what, you know. No, you love, you're alive. You love, you're alive. You know, it's kind of that's the switch that has to occur.
Okay. Okay. I like that switch. I like that switch. Okay. Now I want to ask two questions. A, how do we switch? And B, let's shift to Lovers for Peace, and hopefully that can be that kind of a switch. So first, how do we switch?
Well, I was hoping you would help me out with that. So
Well, good. Then we can jump.
uh,
Then let's jump to Lovers for Peace, because that's what came out of it for me when I looked at it and said, hey, this is a way to shift what we have been accepting as a fight for freedom, or a fight for democracy, or a fight for whatever. A fight using that verb doesn't work. That I knew. So I went, well, how do we love our way into that? And peace, you know, has been something I grew up, you know, I'm 54, and I grew up with the Vietnam War. So, and as a military brat, so war has always been around me. So I've never really understood the concept of peace, because I've never seen it. There's always been war somewhere on this planet, and somewhere that Americans have been involved in this planet. So when I thought, how do we shift this consciousness that because we've all been locked into this war battle of some kind or another. And so it was that statement of a love-making act. And my work has been in the sexualities and learning about why, you know, sex is the most powerful motivation, energy that we have as beings, and how can that be harnessed not just for our self-pleasure, but spiritual or emotional, or now for peace. And that was what the powerful connection was. I went, really? Is that the way that we can shift this and start using our intention and our intelligence to, you know, think on these things instead of the fight? Let's think on the peace. Let's think on the love, and shift that power. But that's where I went, how do we get there?
Yeah.
Well,
very. You know, it's everyone has their own personal response to this information, and you really came up with a great one. You know, I suggested it in the sense of it's a war and fear. You know, the opposite of fear is love, and fear is really what war is all about. And America really doesn't know how to define itself outside of its enemies. It's us against them. You know, because we're such a divided people within, we have to unite ourselves by looking without as you know, who is our common enemy, so that we can have a common cause. I mean, the country was lost before 9/11. You know, people really, you know, no, we didn't have Russia, you know, we're friends with Russia, you know, it's like a very uncomfortable situation for us. You know, our entire culture is defined by war. Every town common has a war memorial in it that, you know, just kind of holds that tension and sorrow within our hearts at a constant level. And, you know, it's like growing beyond this. You know, growing beyond this fear and starting to coming into the human being as what it is. I mean, we're little, you know, 6 feet tall, maybe 7, 8 feet at the most. But you know, the actual beings that we are as big as the planet.
yeah,
I mean, there's no scale here.
yeah,
And we're working in the quanta. Okay, and when we you know, come into the life creation field, we're kind of working with the quanta. You know, you know, love making is such a you know, like a bundle of serpents, if you will, you know, just kind of like. So this
sounds like a group orgy there. Okay.
It's like an electrical charge. Beautiful painter Alex Gray.
Yes.
Has done some wonderful paintings of lovemaking.
Yes.
Of the energy of lovemaking.
Yes.
And yogis have you know, spoken of and intuitives can actually see the energy field that's created by two people coming together. This you know, with a combined field, you know, so you got these two beings that have the size of the planet or maybe the sun, you know, coming together who have this this DNA within them that is you know, this antenna system that can reach out to 12 billion miles. I mean, that's how much DNA we have coiled up within us, and you know, these electric circuits. You know, all this power, you know, can be harnessed, but you know, it's all being channeled through. Oh, you have to go through the priesthood. You got to go through the pyramid. You got to go through the temple. You got to go through. You know, it's like disempowering people. Where your temple is your body, you know, and your celebration of God is your life, and then, you know, putting this energy, focusing this energy, exercising the mind, controlling the heart. You know, like sex is one thing, but you know, directing that energy is another. You know, you have to really develop your mind in order to, and heart. Your heart mind is more important than your head mind. There's just as many glial cells, brain cells in your heart as there are, you know, I mean, almost as much or more so than your brain.
Wow.
So this is your thinking. You got to think with this guy, you know, and just, you know, the head is for operational things. You know, this is, but the heart, going through the heart, and lovemaking opens the heart. And works with that heart energy, and if you let that go and out through and transmit it, it is, you know, I mean, you can shoot that orgasmic energy, if you will, to any site and contribute that love energy. You know, like I can, like a holy man can hold a you know, a place in his heart and, you know, make it be peaceful. I mean, because just the nature of who they are, you know. I mean, like, yeah, or they can really create a hornet's nest like Jesus did, you know, by turning over those tables.
So I love that you make a difference between love making and sex, and really, and that identity with the heart, and using the heart, the intelligence of the heart, to propel energy and to move forces. So, if you would, define how Lovers for Peace can do that in the situation that we've described around this war and violence.
Yeah, we were looking at Brill in Brill, Iraq, as being a center, a focus of violence right now, and make a call out to kind of calm the tensions here. And this particular site is on the 3630 parallel, and it's not exactly, Brill isn't exactly on it. It's on exactly the 44th longitude, but the latitude going east-west is close to the 3630, which is a latitude of civil war. It's a civil war frequency within the United States. You asked about Ferguson when we talked the other day, and Ferguson is very close to this line. So it's this working with sovereignty piece that all along this line. That the 3630 in the United States, for those who don't know, is the Missouri Compromise line. It's the boundary between Virginia and North Carolina. So it's this border. You can see it as a line of state boundaries going across the south central part of the United States through the Four Corners area, coming out a little south of around Monterey, California. So this line along it was where the Trail of Tears of the native peoples were followed. You know, north of this line was slave-free. South of this line was slave, and it was this line was a demarcation of the American Civil War. You go over to Korea. You know, interestingly, you sent a video on Korea who are working with the people of Brill, and Korea is also on the 3630.
Yeah.
You know, the farthest North Korea came down into South Korea was, I think, the 3630, and then they were pushed back to the 38th parallel, and there they remained as a divided country. So there's their civil war. Tehran was another thing. Tehran is very close to the 3630. Their sovereignty. We are an Islamic republic. We don't want to be under the yoke of the United States. We are taking control. You know, kind of like that. Very much an energy of this line. Over in Taos, New Mexico, the Taos Pueblo people who were separated by the 3630 from their holy Blue Lake, where they would make ceremony every August 25th, was you know, they asserted their sovereignty and took back the. He got the U.S. government to give them back their sacred lake. Richard Nixon signing it over to them in the Blue Lake Treaty. So there's this, you know, things like that are happening along it that are kind of like the sovereignty piece is coming in, and the slavery piece is going away. So, you know, by kind of like asserting your own personal sovereignty, like, you know, like what the folks in Ferguson are doing.
Right.
You know, this lad was, he was just being sovereign, you know, which is his right to be, you know, and he was unarmed and he was killed because, you know, he had the wrong clothes or wrong look, or, you know, maybe he had too much Monster, you know, too much of these energy drinks that they're feeding the kids that are just making him so hyperactive. You know, they don't think about that they might be all hyped up on caffeine. They just, you know, let's shoot him. It's crazy. So, yeah, so that, you know, there's this crack that's happening in that. And gradually over time, as we assert our sovereignty on this line, the slavery aspect of you know, which is the fear side of sovereignty, is being controlled by others, gets lessened. And so, you know, here we have this whole issue, all the same issue coming up in Brill, where the Kurdistan people who were, you know, like turned into a part of 4 countries,
right?
You know, by the British, just so that they could keep everything all disrupted there,
right?
You know, I mean, it's totally idiotic the way they set up that, you know, after the fall of the Ottomans, or were they? No, yeah. So, you know, so as the lovers of peace, you know, to counteract the fear piece, you know, we have to use the love piece. And all those, the Islamists, you know, they're scared to death. Those people are so frightened that they're cutting kids' heads off. They're so scared of them. You know, those kids, you know, they're such cowards that, you know, and they fear these people so much, you know, because, you know, their worldview is so threatened. I mean, you know, they are in such a state of fear, you know, and it's like all I can do is send them love, man, you know, because it's, you know, and all everybody wants to do is send them hate, you know, and it's like we just have to blanket the whole area with a love frequency.
Right.
And I provide these earth rings, this earth ring matrix, as a way in which to lock consciousness in, because, you know, you can. It's right here. It's right here in the human eye. Look at my eye.
Yes.
You can see it. Well,
yeah.
All right. You know, so the you know, inner outer core, you know, mantle pupil, and then the white is the mantle, and the water in my eye is the, you know, that's the lithosphere. So, you know, we're the Earth. You know, we're as big as the Earth. We're as, you know, we have, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I mean, you know, I put. You know, the radiance comes out of that radiant ring, if you will, it comes out of our heart. So that heart radiates, having that heart energy radiating out, bathing that whole region, that 200-mile radius region from Abril down to Baghdad, that includes all of Kurdistan. Just kind of bathe it in that loving light to chill the fear that everyone's so wrapped up in, and it's kind of like an orgy of the sword that's taking place. And, we have to counteract that with the orgy of the heart.
Yes, yes.
Rumi was all about this. I mean, why these guys don't just sit down and read Rumi, to deal with it is beyond me. But they probably only have read the Quran,
right.
And it's like,
right.
I'm sorry, it's a good book, but it's kind of outdated. They all are. The Bible's pretty outdated too. I mean,
right.
great wisdom, and I honor and love all these texts, and but it's like it's sending us astray because we're dealing with a different consciousness now. We're growing as a consciousness. We went from family to tribal to religious. Now we're getting into this global consciousness, and the internet is helping us in a big way.
Very much, and I've heard it described, at least as the internet, is the technosphere or the cybersphere, and then we go on to the noosphere, and where we get this consciousness more telepathic, but this is that bridge in between till we get there. And so I'm grateful for that bridge, because I haven't quite got my astral projecting skills down yet, or my telepathy skills down yet. So I'm so grateful that I can use these tools to communicate. So back to communicating, when we're thinking about, we've got this circle of where we're focusing love and loving intentions and peaceful intentions. And is it something, because I'm seeing my question is, how quickly do we see a response? Because when I saw the Friday when President Obama had authorized the drone missile strikes, I don't know if it was the same day or shortly thereafter that the young man was killed. And it was just like, boom, boom, these things hit right away. So do we have that kind of reverberation that a ley line is kind of like the internet? It's just quick, it moves. That energy is going to be happening very quickly.
Well, it's the quanta, and quanta is instantaneous.
Okay, that's how it works. That's how it works.
There's a thing called non-locality in the quantum field, where any quantum science university has one going on, where you have two molecules in a vacuum separated from each other. You do something to one molecule. Originally they were the same molecule, but they separated them out somehow, and so they're in communication. So you do one thing to one molecule, and it simultaneously happens to the other molecule, even though you didn't do it to that one. So it's this non-locality is the quantum field.
Okay.
And it's like matter is just organized long enough for it to occur during its occurrence. So it's it's proving spirituality. It's kind of the spirit of things, and how things are all kind of interconnected.
Connected, yes,
so,
very much. So can we use...
So how soon does this happen? Well, it's instantaneous, but it's also, you got to kind of let go, too. It's just like you give what you can, and you really, and you should also, when you're giving, you should also make sure you're not getting any of the backflow coming back. It's a form of fear, getting attached. Because I tuning into Abril, I was, this is some really heavy energy coming out of this place, and I had to kind of put up a block in order to, just have it be a one-way street where, I'm just sending my love there, and not having that fear and kind of, well, they're going to come after me because I'm sending love towards them.
Uh-huh.
Kind of a response type of thing,
Good point. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. And can we use this? So we're very pointed that we're looking for a cessation to war and violence by sending peaceful intentions. Can we do the same thing with sending energy for floods or for rainstorms or those kind of issues, and make intentional shifts that way? Is it work that way?
I've worked with a group. I have a pyramid out in Michigan that seemed to have some success using this technique called the Holy Grail Vortex, which is a kind of a three-dimensional model of that Earth Ring series I sent you. And it's kind of it's when weather gets out of hand, it is not kind of keeping within its balanced vortex. It gets too extreme.
Right.
So by inserting a vortex within it, like a hurricane, for instance, you can, a balanced vortex, you can dampen it or move it or control it, but only what they found is only if you were going to be directly impacted by it could you actually do something about it. Somebody who wasn't involved couldn't do something about it. You have to have a person who was physically in the way of it, as like a witness, a water witness within this. It's very esoteric and kind of probably too long to go into, but they're HAARP, HAARP, heartbeat, which has been a weather modification program. It has been sold to a private company, which indicates to me that the military now has a pocket-sized one that is being used for weather modification. And I think what we have going on here in this country is weather modification right now.
Yes.
We're getting hit with incredible rains. They're trying to fill up the reservoirs. Where'd all this water come from all of a sudden?
Right.
Right. So.
And it's coming.
It might be. I might be at fault. I don't know. Maybe it was my, projecting love. I don't know. But.
Well, I was looking at Detroit in particular.
I knew California wanted water.
Yeah, California, we could use some more water. But
this is what I did. California wanted water, and this is what I did to help California get water. I went down and found a ley line that centers down in L.A. that goes right across the country. It's called the Kachina Ley, going through the San Francisco peaks and the Hopi people, and a very powerful line, carries the weather of the Kachinas from San Francisco peaks to the Hopi reservation to feed their corn. But this line is a trajectory all the way across the whole country going up into Nova Scotia.
Got it.
Where it's done, and this is what draws the water into L.A., makes it rain in L.A. And there was a ring there that I worked with a fellow, Benny LeBeau, a Shoshone medicine singer, who does very large medicine wheels, and he placed I helped him lay out this design of an 8-pointed wheel, 250 miles across, with L.A. involved in it, with the center being Big Bear Lake, which Lake District, trees were dying, they needed water. So what ended up, we created this medicine wheel, but only women showed up for the ceremony. No men to bring a balanced vortex to this wheel, right? This was back in, I think, 2005. And did the ceremony on October 30th, and on the 31st it rained and rained and rained and rained. No rain was predicted. And for the next 6 weeks, one storm after another came down the coast of California and took a left into L.A. Came down, took a left. Came down, took a left, and it did kill people. It killed 3 people, and which is and it killed many, I mean, whatever hopes and dreams of people's houses and whatnot being washed away. It was quite a flood, and it was a lesson in that you need both male and female energies in these wheels, because with all those women, it was just this intense water thing that happened, and so. Since then, we've been using medicine wheels to moderate weather. It was used down in Georgia to stop that drought successfully, and it was so it seems to help to stop droughts. And we made it rain again in California recently using that same medicine wheel.
Excellent.
That storm that just went through there about a month ago, and 5 inches of rain. Right, that was the result of. Right after we did that, but it might have been HAARP. We don't know. You got to just do this and let go and trust that it's working, because there is no quantification of it, and you can quantify it only over time, a great period of time.
Yes, well, we have a life to look back upon. So what do individuals need to know? And I will post your book. Tell us the name again of your book.
Yes, it's Gaia Matrix.
Okay.
Gaia Matrix.
And we can find it on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon under Franklin Media. There's others available on Amazon, but ours is the cheapest at Franklin Media.
Excellent.
And some people are selling them for $160. But it's a landmark book, and it's made lay flat cover with archival paper, so it'll last longer than a computer. And it's about the United States, primarily North America, and it's available through my website as well, geometryofplace.com. Get a lot of information there on this stuff, a lot of free stuff. Donate, please.
Okay. And what are you working on next?
I'm working on this Lovers for Peace. I'm just working on whatever's coming in front of my nose, and I've been trying to get out a video about a Sunray Peace Village that a Cherokee Buddhist gal, Venerable Diahu, up in Lincoln, Vermont, has created this Peace Village, and I'm working on a study on that, on its interrelationships with various peace centers around New England, and how it's creating this kind of matrix of peace, if you will, with her at the center and the Dalai Lama at the edge, and the Gaia, the peacemaker at her western door. It's kind of like this really staggering Gaia-graphic geometry that I've discovered connected with this gal's work. So I'm developing a video on that right now. And
that's profound. I'm going to be looking forward to that. When will that be out?
Hopefully today. I'll be putting it on my YouTube channel, which is also Geometry of Place.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right. And then finally, what do we need to know as individuals right now? What do you advise people when you see them? If they know nothing else, what do you tell them they need to know?
Geez. Well, it's usually that's a hard one, because it's usually the person has a question and they in their face, and I know what it is, and I'm able to respond. But what they need to know about this material is that the Earth is alive, and we're part of it. We are the consciousness of the Earth. If there is one, if there is a consciousness, if the Earth can replicate, if it is a living being, it should be able to replicate itself. And I would just say that the Earth is us, and we are the Earth. And the more we act responsibly and consciously and in good heart, the Earth does too. You know, I mean, the Earth responds in kind to our frequency. You know, if we as a human family are always in conflict, we're going to get earthquakes. We're going to get all kinds of problems. The Earth core is going to be inflamed all the time. The tendons will be inflamed. The ley lines will be inflamed. So it's like it's a personal responsibility in each and every individual. You know, unfortunately, you can't get away. You know, I mean, it's free will. You can do what you want, but you know, that's the fun part here. But you know, if we want to succeed as a human soul, you know, I mean, you know, like. We're individual humans, but there's also this human soul, and the bodhisattvas keep coming back because the human soul can't advance without everybody going. You know, so it's like it's everybody's responsibility to care for the Earth, because the Earth is our vehicle to get us there. It's our crucible of our souls to you know, like, advance. And to get closer to this place of divinity and light, you know, which you know, I guess is the ultimate goal. I mean, that's the ultimate coin in my book, but in others it's something else. I'm just speaking for myself, and you know, and these understanding how the Earth is, recognizing the Earth as it is for what it is, in the shape that it is, in the kind of the radiant forms that it expresses. You know, sees the Earth for the first time. It's like seeing the Earth's eyes and ears, you know, like it's like not having glasses and not being able to see a person's face, and then, you know, whoa, look at those eyes and those lips and all those round things everywhere, you know, and you know, our head is so much like the planet.
Wow.
You know, and when we can find those places to talk and see through and communicate with the planet, it becomes this wonderful co-creative experience for everyone involved. But
wonderful.
It takes away fear. Yeah. It takes away fear, and that's I think that I think that fear is a commodity that's being marketed and sold on the open galactic market. You know, as a field for demons to come feed on, for, you know, whatever, you know, something of that nature is happening, because, you know, looking at cause and effect, you know, seeing these ley lines and these entrainments of war, it's like humans aren't doing this over and over again, and over again. It's something, you know, there's a frequency behind this that gets fueled by it. You know, gets sexually excited by it. You know, it's this ability to control people is, you know, kind of propagated via these ley lines, via these ancient temples, like you know, like the pyramid, for instance, in Egypt. People are going there activating the pyramid. It's like, no, don't activate that thing. Shut it down, you know. You know, just forget about it. Maybe you take it apart and get that spaceship out of there that's in the middle. You know, just this kind of thing. You know, you know, because it's a control frequency. Yeah, it's the 99 against the 1%. Right. You know.
Right. Wow.
You know, so getting that, right. Right, you know, so you got all these other powerful things, you know, these world views that we have, you know, like England is our prime meridian, the zero. It's where we define our time and relationship to the world as England. So the English worldview, wow, it's prominent throughout the planet, you know. That should be moved over to the international date line, you know, where it's all water, you know. And there isn't any one culture that's defining what it is, and, you know, like the Darwinian economics of the English worldview. It's total crap. You know, nature is cooperation in everything.
Okay, now you made me think of something else. The poles are shifting, And so they're moving, but I'm also understanding they're not only just moving, but they're splitting in two. So now we're having to be concerned about two North Poles and two South Poles. Is that going to affect our line or ley lines on the planet?
Ooh. Let me get my future glass out here.
Please, get two of them out.
I think it would, yes. I just had the pleasure of speaking with an astrophysicist from Harvard a couple of weeks ago, just on this subject, and what he's saying is that there's two new poles emerging, one in the south Indian Ocean, middle of the Indian Ocean, and the other one is at the South Atlantic over by Brazil, in the South Atlantic magnetic anomaly there. The South Atlantic, the Western Hemisphere is lessening, and the Eastern Hemisphere is increasing. So the South China Sea is becoming the new North Pole, and the other one's becoming the new South Pole.
Wow.
But the other two poles, he says, will remain for a time being. Okay. But it really appears as though that with the increase of magnetism with these other two places, that a new pole is emerging.
Okay.
And for a while we will have four
poles,
a dual pole.
Right.
So that, as far as that's going to really mess with our own poles, because we're used to having one pole, and where this new pole is troublesome. So it'll be a challenge. It'll be a real challenge. A question I had for him, I said, well, with a magneto, when there's a pole reversal or a shift, in a magneto, it changes the direction of spin within the armature and the rotation of the magneto and everything. You reverse poles and it spins the other way. So would that happen to the Earth? And he kind of like paused and he said, yeah, that might happen.
Okay, so we're all waiting and seeing what's going to happen next.
Yeah, that would account for how the Andes Mountains was thrown up in a day.
Ah. Oh, okay. So we can expect those kind of changes.
Yeah.
Wow. Do we have a date? I mean, they're happening now. I understand they're moving, 40 miles a minute or hour. I can't remember what the number was, but they're moving rapidly. So,
yeah, the North Pole is moving rapidly across Russia towards India.
Okay.
And it's. He said it'll gradually, strengthen and weaken to a point where it just, can't hold it anymore. Then it releases. But this is a process that the Earth needs to go through. As I said at the beginning, in California, there's a lot of electricity being generated by a lot of telluric energy being generated by the fault, the San Andreas Fault. Now, when we have this weakening magnetic field, which is exposing us to solar radiation more and more. We're getting more and more cancers. We're getting less protection. The systems are failing within the biology of the planet. So it needs a better the magnetic fields are blending and not so coherent. North and south, positive and negative. So when the Earth flips its poles, it does this telluric twist and moves itself. It moves its crust. The crust then generates all this electricity because of its movement, and that then restores the pole and all the Van Allen belt and the magnetic field is reset and restored.
Okay, so it is a self-correcting.
Self-correction.
Got it. Okay.
And at that point, we have an enlivened telluric system. All the ley lines are operating at top speed.
Will it? Oh, at top speed. So does that move the location of the ley lines because the poles have shifted? Will the ley lines shift?
Like lays that are culturally generated, like that Silk Road lay, for instance. There are a few. Like there's a big valley that it goes through in Afghanistan, and there's a number of natural features that keys it in. But it's that energy would kind of shake off the dross, shake off those old memories, and shift frequency.
So that could take care of that curse, possibly.
Yeah.
That would be good. That would be very good. All right. We'll look forward to the pole shift then. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wholly new electrical field.
Right.
And it's like a new memory field is generated. It's like a change of life, if you will, that's coming.
That's a big phrase, a change of life. Okay. I think we're going to leave people at that, and we're going to have to come back and discover that a little more. But I've kept you over an hour, and I wanted to go, wow. But you left me at a cliffhanger, which is perfect, because that's where I want to be left, so I can go, can I come back and ask more questions?
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's been a blast.
Yes, and look forward to sharing this piece. And sharing your work, and it is pretty profound, and I'm glad that we're at a place on the planet that we can start grasping it and using it. There we go. Gaia Matrix, that's what I wanted to see. Thank you. And I will be putting this up. And
here, this is on the back cover. I didn't mention that. See, the North American tectonic plate is half water and half land.
Yes.
So we, America, can bring balance to the world.
Oh, we have some work to do. We have some work to do. All right. Well, thank you for inspiring me for Lovers for Peace. And as it grows and as we can share this concept, I'm looking forward to being overjoyed and humbled by the changes we see going forward from it. And I'm sending that loving intention out for peace, and looking forward to hearing more about that and how we can rebuild these ley lines and these, as you're saying, the woman, the peace structures that are happening and putting more of those in place. So I look forward to sharing that and sharing your work with those folks that are going to be building, because now we're talking about the new generation that's come in to build and to do this work properly, and we need that old information, and it's been here on the planet waiting to tell us, so it's good, and thank you for having it and being that vehicle to share it very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and we will.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.